Hi, happy Monday. Welcome to today's video. So today we're talking about how your beliefs can keep you stuck in people-pleasing mode. Because sometimes you can know exactly what you should do, e.g. say no, rest, speak up. You know you need to stop over-explaining yourself, and yet doing these things feels really uncomfortable, almost wrong. And this is because a lot of our behaviors aren't driven by logic. They're driven by the meanings and values we've unconsciously attached to things. And until you change those meanings, it's very difficult to become your future self consistently. In this case, to stop people pleasing, to stop putting yourself last. So for those of you who are new here, my name is Lucy Charlotte Nichols and I am a quantum coach. Here on YouTube, I talk about making change feel easy and become easy. People pleasing as a survival identity, nervous system healing, future self embodiment, reconnecting to your authentic self, and changing in a way that feels safe rather than dysregulating. So learning to change feels good and easy to do. And today we are talking about something that quietly controls so much of our behavior. And that is the unconscious meanings that we attach to things. Because your future self doesn't just behave differently, she thinks differently, she perceives differently. And most importantly, she attaches different meanings to situations. So let me explain what I mean. A lot of us are not reacting to reality itself. We're reacting to what our brain has learned something means. For example, maybe growing up, saying no led to conflict. Expressing needs led to rejection. Disagreement led to shame. Resting led to criticism. Confidence was labeled arrogant. Being visible attracted negative attention. And because these experiences repeated, your brain began attaching meanings to these behaviors. And so now in your mind, in the subconscious, your nervous system reacts automatically, even if your brain knows different. So let's use kindness as an example because this is a massive one for people pleasers. A lot of people believe they're being kind when really they're abandoning themselves because they think being kind means being always available. Being caring means never disappointing anyone. Being loving means sacrificing themselves. And that being a good person means putting everyone else first and themselves last. But notice something here. This kind of kindness often creates exhaustion, resentment, burnout, anxiety, self-neglect. And your future self, she has a completely different version of kindness. She understands kindness without boundaries becomes self-abandonment. That overgiving is not always love, and that constantly rescuing people is not healthy. And for her, saying no doesn't make her selfish. Your future self doesn't associate boundaries with cruelty. She associates boundaries with self-respect. And that changes everything. Because behavior changes when meaning changes. So let me give you another example. Confidence. So for women, a lot of the time growing up, confident people were criticized. Visible people were attacked. Speaking confidently was labeled too much. Taking up space felt unsafe. So now part of you wants confidence, but another part of you associates it with danger. So every time you begin stepping into your power, your nervous system pulls you backwards. Not because confidence is wrong, but because you're conditioning attached a negative meaning to it. That is why trying to force behavioral change without addressing your internal associations often doesn't work long term, because your subconscious mind is still operating from the old meaning system. Your future self is not just someone who behaves differently. She's someone who sees differently, who thinks differently. Another example, rest. And this one can really be a biggie, because a lot of people simply cannot rest, because subconsciously they associate rest with laziness, failure, being unproductive, losing worth. So even when they technically have time to relax, their nervous system can't settle because internally there's guilt. But your future self, she understands that rest is regulation, nourishment, self-respect, necessary, and not weakness. And again, these meanings didn't come from nowhere. They were learned, usually through repeated emotional experiences. Maybe as a child you got praised for being helpful, loved for being easy, accepted for being low maintenance, criticized for having needs, rejected for expressing anger, rewarded for self-sacrifice. So naturally, your nervous system built an identity around these things. And that is why I don't believe that healing is attacking yourself into change, because your current behaviors often make perfect sense once you understand the emotional conditioning beneath them. So part of becoming your future self is not just changing your actions, it's changing the meanings attached to them. For example, what if saying no meant honesty, not selfishness? What if resting meant self-care, not laziness? What if boundaries meant self-respect, not rejection? What if being your full self, being authentic, meant freedom, not danger? And if confidence meant self-trust, not arrogance? That changes how your nervous system experiences these behaviors. And this is where transformation starts to become manageable and sustainable. So here's something I want you to start noticing this week. Whenever you feel resistance around doing something, whenever you feel like part of you wants to do something different, but another part of you doesn't, ask yourself, what meaning have I attached to this? For example, if you struggle saying no, what meaning have you attached to that? If you struggle resting, what does rest mean to you? If visibility, being seen, feels uncomfortable, what have you learned visibility means? Because once you identify the meaning, you can begin consciously choosing a new one. And over time, this changes your identity completely, because you stop living from unconscious conditioning and start living from conscious alignment. Your future self is not just a version of you with better habits. She's a version of you with different beliefs, different emotional associations, a different self-concept, and different standards for how she treats herself. And the beautiful thing about this is you can start building that version of you right now. Not through force, not through shame, but through awareness, self-compassion, and repeated aligned choices. So if this resonated with you, let me know in the comments, what is one behavior that you realize you've attached a negative meaning to? And if you enjoyed this video, subscribe, because in the next video, we are going to look how having parts of us that we hide keeps us miserable, keeps us low in self-esteem, apart from our tribe and feeling in lack, and how bringing these parts out of hiding, showing them they are okay, acceptable, lovable, makes us feel more whole, good about ourselves, attracts our tribe, and allows us to step into our power. And so as always, happy Monday, peace out, and stay blessed.